Welcome and good morning. Welcome to the Vision Alignment Show, where we begin to understand how important it is to understand that we all have blindness in our lives. Understanding our blindness and understanding our blind spots is important, but also knowing our vision is really important as well. Where our vision takes us is so much farther than we've ever gone before. So understanding that our core beliefs and our core values need to be aligned with our vision is vitally important. There's a lot of guests we have coming on that talk about how their vision is aligned with their core beliefs, their core values, their core strengths. But we have a guest coming on today that really knows about her core strengths, and her core values, and her core beliefs. And without a doubt, Crystal Washington is going to deliver more of what you have been talking about today. Thank you very much. And here she is, Crystal Washington.
How are you, Brian?
Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
This is phenomenal. So, Crystal, tell me, when is your first recollection of knowing your vision?
So this was years ago in my early 20s. I had a really good paying job and I was absolutely miserable in it. And so I was in my car during my lunch break crying and begging for just some hope, some idea of something bigger that I should be doing. And in the midst of like my crying, like this whole vision, not to play on the title here, but the whole vision was downloaded into my mind of what I would be doing and what kind of businesses I needed to launch. And I stopped crying and I said, whoa, that's too much. I thought something small. I just needed a new job. And that's it.
Awesome. If you want to hear more, stay right there. Awesome. Again, thank you so much for joining us, Crystal. But before we get to Crystal, I want to encourage everyone on the that is on this podcast in the audience to just share this video out with as many people as you can think of, because sharing it out makes this community larger, and that's what we're all about, is making the community larger and getting people to understand that we all have blindness in our lives, and understanding how important it is for our core beliefs to be in alignment with our vision. That's really important. So I've got another strange request. So if you would also, in your timeline, post a picture of you winking. And when you wink, I want you to think, if this guy, meaning me, knows what makes him unique, and it's not my eye, by the way, it's my positive personality and how I'm able to share my story with other people to have a lasting impact on their lives. If this guy knows what makes him unique and it's not his eye, I wonder what makes me unique. That's where it all starts. So please do that. And if you have the desire to sign up to be a part of this this movement I have, I call it a movement, go to brianwagner.live and sign up for the Vision Alignments. So thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate all of you. Now, Crystal.
Yes.
Tell me. What is your story?
I could go on forever. I have a life that's strange.
You go on for as long as you need to.
Oh, trust me, there's not enough hours. My life is stranger than fiction for sure. Anyone who's connected to me on Facebook knows that. But I think in terms of right now, talking about vision, what's relevant is the fact that my background is in hospitality. And I was always in sales and marketing. I went to school for that. And I got a job in corporate America where I was in sales. And then I was a revenue manager, which is a certain type of marketing manager. It doesn't sound like it, but it is. And I was high performing in all the roles that I did. But I was miserable partially because I worked for a company that had quite a few ethical issues. I was dealing with sexual harassment, racial harassment, like anything you could think of. In terms of trying to get me to do things that were unethical. It was a hot mess. So I was unhappy there. I loved what I did. And I loved my employees. My employees, it was funny. They didn't even know my real age. I was in my early 20s. I wouldn't tell them my age because they were all old enough to be my parents and grandparents. And I knew they would eat me alive. So anyways, I'm in my position. I'm killing it. I'm not really happy in the environment, but I'm doing a good job. And I remember there's this little thing called social media that was starting to kind of bubble up to the surface. And I was like, man, I have a feeling this is going to be big one day. And this was like in MySpace time. And I remember going to my boss and saying, hey, this social media stuff, I have a feeling that companies are going to use this one day, which you're probably like, yeah, duh, now. But at the time, this was not a thing. And I said, I really think you should give me just a little bit of time to explore how we can use this to build more business. And he looked at me. He's much more my senior, baby boomer man. And he looked at me and he said, look, kid, you make us a bleep load of money. And he didn't say bleep. He said, stick to what you know. I said, oh, okay. Now, I'm a millennial. I'm an old millennial, but I'm a millennial. And so I did something that was very millennial. I started to plan my exit. And that's actually when I went to my car that day and I was all upset. But I ended up quitting my job to start a digital marketing firm to help businesses use social media before businesses were really using social media. And that was the beginning of that story. And from that marketing firm, that's actually what launched my speaking business, because most of my clients were members of some type of organization. And so they would ask me, well, can you come speak at, our luncheon, this, whatever. And I would do it as a favor to my clients until I started getting so many requests, I couldn't keep up. And I decided these aren't billable hours. I'm not getting paid. My subcontractors aren't getting paid. I'm just going to have to start saying no to all these speaking stuff. And I remember the first organization I said no to, they said, but we'll pay you. And I said, oh. And that was the beginning of my speaking career. I remember Googling professional speaking and I was like, I'm doing the wrong thing. And so that's pretty much, I think, the overall story of how I am where I'm at right now.
Wow. That's interesting. So you got this download of information when you were sitting in the car crying. What was the information you got?
It was to start this marketing firm and to write a book and to be a speaker. And these weren't things I had thought about before. And when I was looking for direction, I literally thought that I was praying for a new job. I thought something would tell me, go down the street to this place and ask for Mary. That's not what I got. I got a lot of work. And it was much bigger than anything I'd seen for myself, because I had only ever seen myself in corporate. Like everything, all of my training, all of my education, internships, externships, everything revolved around me moving up in corporate. Nothing I had never imagined taking an entrepreneurial path. And so it was overwhelming. It was too much. And I just remember thinking, oh, no, I think you sent that message to the wrong, maybe the lady in the car over there.
Give me a sign. Is there another sign?
Yeah, I don't like this sign. This sign is scary.
Oh, that is funny. So how did you do it?
Just one bite at a time.
Yeah.
So it started off, I technically started the marketing firm before I quit my job. But when I tell you that bad boy was making hardly any money, but it wasn't losing money. So I couldn't depend on it for revenue. When I quit my job, I joke. The guy I was dating at the time, and we didn't live together or anything like that. The guy I was dating at the time, he had dealt with some of his own crazy stuff in corporate America. Very high performer. And as anybody who knows who's been in corporate America, if you're in sales especially, if you consistently exceed your goals, at some point they'll figure out how to pay you less in commissions. And so he was dealing with something like that. Yeah. And
I work for IBM, and I'm sure that that's true.
Everybody's story. And so he got upset because he was a very kind man, but the one thing you can't do is play with his money. And so he quit his job to start his own photography business. And so when it came time for me, when this vision and all these things were happening in my own job, he encouraged me. But the funny thing is, the difference is that when I met my boyfriend, he was living off of maybe 50% of his income. He was a super saver. Me, when I quit my job, I had 2 months, Brian, 2 months worth of money to carry myself.
That's 2 months more than a lot of people.
Well, he could have been out of work for 2 years and
Oh,
probably
wow.
not even touched his 401k.
Mm.
I didn't have that story, and I didn't have anybody to depend on. Because again, I we weren't living together or anything, and my parents were each set of parents. I have step parents too. Each set of parents was putting 2 kids through school, so there was no. I had to depend on me, but it was such a wonderful experience realizing what I'm capable of. I remember the first time someone paid me $300 for something in marketing, and I was like, someone paid me $300. And it's not that I hadn't made more than that in corporate, but the fact that me as an individual could generate that money felt
you.
Now, to make a long story short, I ended up marrying that wonderful man, and now he's my super husband. So
nice. Awesome.
And we both have businesses. Yeah.
Huh. Well, that's cool. And now he's saving for you.
Yeah. You know what? Something weird just happened with the sun. Give me one quick second. I apologize.
Oh,
I know
that's all right.
Give me one quick second. I'm right here.
That's all right. You take your time. I'll fill the air. And while we're filling the air, I want to encourage everyone to comment and please let us know where you're coming in from. Put in hashtag live if you're listening live. If you're put in a hashtag replay if you're listening via replay. And what else? I think that's it. So, let us know where you're coming in from. So that's important. Now, we do have Linda Kazera on, and there we are. Good morning, Linda. It's good to see you coming in live from West Virginia. That's always good to see you. Hi, Linda. So Linda and Greg Kazera, they're good friends, and they've done a lot of good things here with the Ohio Speakers Association, the National Speakers Association, Ohio chapter. So. Back to you, Crystal.
Oh, where do you? That was it for that piece. I married my husband. Yay! So we both ended up with our own businesses, and it's been an amazing ride. Cool. I'm so glad that it worked out the way it did.
Good. So let me ask you then, what is the biggest factor in your success?
Outside of Providence or something bigger than myself helping me along the way. So I think that's an obvious, but I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for. I think I have a puzzle mind. Ever since I was a little girl, I loved doing puzzles. Like there's baby pictures of me with jigsaw puzzles. And I think this dogged determinedness that I just naturally have to make things fit, and I'll look at a picture, and no matter what you hand me, even if it has nothing to do with my area of expertise, I will figure out how to put the pieces together. And sometimes that's soliciting other people. And I think that consistency and just my determinedness, I just refuse to not complete a goal, even if it's hard. So I think that's helped a great deal. And like I said, something larger than myself, which also pulls in the fact that a lot of people have supported me. So many. I have angels everywhere. And that's not something you can take credit for. You just have to be grateful.
Isn't that great? And to accept that graciously, isn't it great? Because they don't know. Sometimes they don't know it, but they were put in place to help you.
Definitely.
I mean, it's just so awesome to be able to have that. And it gives me chills, because of those people.
Say, during COVID, all that happened during COVID, that was probably one of the times where I really realized what an army of people supported me. Because Brian, I had a couple clients at the beginning, because anybody who's listening, who's not in the speaking business, it makes sense, but maybe you never thought about the fact that the bottom fell out of our business in late March, right? Like everybody's events either canceled, went to next year, and we were all in this holding pattern. So all of a sudden, all the speakers who were dependent upon in-person revenue, there was nothing. And it was funny because in the beginning, I had a couple clients who contacted me saying, hey, can you do virtual events? And I was like, yeah, sure. Looking around, I'm a technology person. I was like, yes. But there's a couple of them in the beginning. And I remember telling my husband, I don't even think they actually needed an event. I actually think I had a couple clients who wanted to make sure I was still making money. We had members of the National Speakers Association, more than one, who called up their clients who were doing virtual events and said, hey, hire Crystal Washington. She's worth her full fee. And then the clients called me and did it. Multiple NSA members. And I had clients that were sending me gift baskets saying, hey, I know things are tough, just want to support you. Like it got to the point my husband was like, this is crazy. Like every week you're getting some type of big wine or food basket or bath stuff. So it was humbling because I found myself crying almost every day because someone would do something to support me. And that amount of support was nothing that it's not that I wasn't used to people supporting me, but it was overwhelming. And so I think it's in those tough times when you really realize how kind people are and how much they care.
Yeah. And I will say this about NSA, and you're talking about more than NSA, but NSA, the National Speakers Association, NSA, we keep saying that. National Speakers Association is a phenomenal group of people that have helped so many people. I'm one of them. I've been on the receiving end of the foundation, the Charitable Speakers Foundation. So that's a great organization, and can't say enough good things about NSA. So yeah, thank you for bringing that out. But yes. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. So you mentioned your area of expertise. We haven't talked much about that yet. So you came from hospitality, right?
Yes.
And now your area of expertise is what?
Technology and futurism. But there's a link because in hospitality, I was sales and marketing, and that's all I studied in school. I knew that I would work for a hotel or restaurant company, but I knew I didn't want to be in operations. The only thing I cared about was sales and marketing because I'm good at it, and it allows for creativity and connecting with people. But when it came to hotels, part of that job was managing like e-channels. And so there was a lot of that technology component to what I did. I'm working with Priceline. I'm working with all those different companies. And so that's where the technology piece came in and running promotions, digital promotions. But this is before social media. So that's kind of where that went in. And then so that's why I started the digital marketing firm around social media, because I had the sales and marketing background. And I understood some tech, but this was new. So, it was great because you're testing things out as you go along, and your clients are guinea pigs, but they know you're being honest ahead of time. We're going to test out some things here because this is emerging. This is new. And then futurism came into play because everybody always wants to know what's coming next with technology. And that would be what I would talk about, hey, this is what's coming. Or sometimes people know that these 5 things are coming, but they never stop to think about how these technologies might be combined. What might come next out of this? And so then that's where I went and I started studying futurism or foresight is what it's called, and, getting certifications in that.
So certifications, what kind of certifications would you get?
For foresight. So basically, when you think about futurism or foresight, like some people don't really understand what it is. Most people don't understand what it is.
No,
I don't have a crystal ball. So I'm not predicting the future.
You have a Crystal Washington.
Right. Crystal Washington, that crystal ball. But what you do as a futurist is you look at a very specific area. So I only do futurism when it comes to consumer technology. If you ask me about other things, I'll tell you that's not my area. It's not my lane. And so your job as a futurist is to look and see, it's something called horizon scanning. Look and see what's going out. You're collecting all kinds of information. And based on a specific thing, maybe people want to know the future of smartphones. I don't know. You gather information and you look at what people think is going to be the future. And then you project out 2 to 3 alternative futures. What if this thing happens here, this happens here? And what happens is that companies oftentimes hire you to do that because then they can protect against the other futures as well. So they're basically future hacking or future proofing. And Shell Oil Company is actually the first company to ever hire professional futurists. And so they always have people there that are projecting out alternatives for things that they're expecting so that they can be prepared just in case.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I had no idea.
Yeah, I know, right? Right. I don't know if that sounds better or worse than a crystal ball. I don't know if it sounds less or more interesting. I don't know, but it's the truth.
Well, that's fascinating. I love it. So what are some of the challenges and obstacles you still are trying to overcome outside of COVID?
Well, I will say this is going to sound strange, but my business has actually done really well throughout this. Like I said, the first point when the bottom fell out for everybody, I was in the same position all the in-person speakers were, where we were kind of like, what's next? Yeah. But I quickly, virtual events took over. And so I've been doing good there. I would say the biggest challenge is that right now I have a lot of ideas and things that can help people, but I'm balancing figuring out and sometimes waiting for a little bit of higher direction, right? Because I get some downloads.
That's good. You still get downloads?
I still get downloads, but being strategic and making sure that I grow in the way that serves other people, but that I do not become a servant to what I am creating. Or let's not do it that way. I don't become a slave to what I'm creating, because what I don't want to do is get caught up in the cycle of more versus the cycle of, if you expand, it's to be of service to somebody else, if that makes sense. And I love to travel. I'll take weeks off, and like my favorite place to go is in the middle of the Amazon rainforest. There's no Wi-Fi, there's no electricity, there's no running water. Yeah. Well, if you grow to a certain extent, depending on how you grow companies, you're not able to do those things as easily. So my biggest challenge is figuring out the next steps in a way that honors what I need, but also honors giving other people opportunities and being of service.
Wow. That's awesome. That's really cool. So you understand what you need, what you want, what kind of life you want first, and then you build your business around that.
Well, and I think it's important because, especially in the United States, we are almost trained to want more, bigger, better, new, shiny, but it's a cycle and it's never ending and it'll eat you. And so that's not what I want. And so, I recognize what I actually want, what I need to be happy. And like I said, I do believe that we have sometimes responsibility to expand, and it may not be about us. It's so that you can bring on the next generation. It's so that you can help other people. So it's just that balancing piece I'm working on.
That's a great vision. I love it. Now I'm going to sneeze.
Uh-oh.
I'm getting rid of it. Wow. You've probably gotten a lot of advice from a lot of different people. What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
Oh, that's hard. Do you want business advice or life advice?
Yes.
It's funny. My grandmother was the sweetest woman you'll ever know, very determined. She reminds me a lot of Mr. Rogers. And she used to have a crush on Mr. Rogers too.
Aw.
I'm having all kinds of, hold on one quick second.
Where'd you go?
Give me one quick second. Something's going on really strange. And I want to make sure that we don't lose our connection.
Oh no. Are we about to power down?
Hold on. It shouldn't, but it's doing something bizarre.
Okay. Well, take your time.
There we go. We're having all kinds of little stuff going on. My apologies. All right. All right. But so my grandmother, very, very sweet woman, she used to always tell me, and this is something other people have heard before, I'm sure, you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. Now, I don't know if that was actually her favorite aphorism or if she saw something in me where she felt the need to keep reminding me of this, but it has worked so well in life. It's reminded me in a lot of situations where maybe someone deserves kind of a harsher, but to be more patient and to lead with kindness. And that has served me very well. I would say in speaking, one of the best pieces of advice that I ever received was from Karen McCullough, who is my speaking mentor. And there's one point where I still had my consulting business, and then I had the speaking business, and they were very separate. They didn't really serve each other. And there's a point where she said, Crystal, you want to be on the road like I am and speak on the level I am. That's what she said, right? And I said, yes. And she said, you can't serve two masters. She said, I do this full time. If you want what I have, you have to put in the work that I put in. And I remember thinking, lady, are you crazy? This is how I pay my bills, that consulting business. But I trusted her because she was the blueprint. And so I started ending my contracts, or I let them come to natural ends. I just wouldn't renew the contract. So all the clients were fine. Nobody was upset. And I remember my husband walking by from time to time, hearing me turn down thousands of dollars in contracts. And he's like, former banker. He's like,
what are you doing?
But within a few months, the speaking revenue surpassed the consulting revenue. So that was an excellent piece of advice.
That's awesome. I love it. Wow. So what do you do for clarity? What brings you clarity? How do you get to where you are?
I think being by myself, people are different. And I think it's important to touch on that, because we hear all these gurus and self-help people say things like, you got to get up early. You get up by 4:30 a.m. or you do. side note, if I get up at 4:30 a.m., you don't want to be around me. I'm crazy, okay, and mean. Let me wake up. No. So I think you have to do what works for you. But for me, I don't get energy from being around people. Some people do. The masterminds and stuff like that, it gears them up. That's not how that works for me. I do my best work and I get my best ideas when I isolate, when I get off social media, when I don't listen to the radio or TV, don't talk to people on the phone, but just when I'm by myself and just sit in that. And that's where all my best ideas have come from. Any large innovations I've created or been a part of, it's all come from that. So sitting in silence is my way, not the way.
That is good advice, because there's so many people and they're preaching, they're talking about, here's the way you need to do it, here's what you should be doing, here's the best way to do it. But it's important to understand that, especially in the speaking business, and probably in other businesses as well, there is the right way, or there is your way, and there is their way. So you need to take what you can from them and make sure that you temper that with whatever is right for you.
Well, we have to know our rhythms. I think if there's the best thing I have learned in my life is how to game myself. So when I start to understand what motivates me, I'll set myself up in ways where I know that, for instance, I'm a check person. If I put a to-do list in order and I have to check off things, I'm not going to leave things unchecked. I'm a measurement person. And so this year when I was like, okay, you're not going to the gym several times a week like you were before COVID, we have to get in charge of our health. What can you do to make sure that you do the things you're supposed to do? I bought myself a Fitbit. Cool. Then the highest level one. But it's measuring all these things you have to check off every day. I know. I literally said, once you buy this, Crystal, you're going to be fine because I know you. So it's like a higher me talking to the normal me saying, So I think when you start to acknowledge your rhythms and what doesn't work for you, people are always like, hey, we should develop a mastermind group and do this and that. And I had to, for the longest time, I tried to make myself into that person. And so I start to realize, well, no, that's not actually where you do your best. You can meet up with people for an event and then leave that, but you don't want that continued. That's not what works for you. Right. So I think, it's not about finding someone else's formula. It's figuring out what our rhythms are and then finding formulas that honor those. What is your formula? Yeah. Wow. That's similar to the question I usually ask myself, and I've already asked myself, and I've made a list about what brings me joy. So that's similar. So what brings you joy? Oh, so many things. My husband, because I won the husband lottery, by the way. Yeah. My nieces and nephews. Yeah, my nieces and nephews are amazing. But for me, mostly nature. So that's where the travel comes in. And like I said, Amazon's my favorite, but I love rainforests. There's something about being lost in a place with all of these just almost prehistoric looking plants. I mean, in the Amazon, you see stuff that you didn't know was possible. Like I couldn't even begin to describe some things I've seen without pictures because people wouldn't believe me. I saw like a gold, I lie to you not, a gold worm, gold. It looked like 22 karat gold. I have a picture of that. And people are like, that's crazy. So being in that level of nature, even though it can kill you, because there's some dangerous stuff out there. Yeah. And maybe the fact that there's that stuff around you that can kill you, maybe that's humbling too. I don't know. But being in nature resets me. And part of the reason is because you're really more by yourself in nature. Yeah. It's one thing in your office to make the decision. Okay, I'm not going to look on the internet today. I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to read or journal. But when you're out in the wilderness, it's not a choice. How crazy would you look with a laptop with a boa constrictor sitting next to you and some tarantulas? Wow. Yeah, this is not at all what I expected today. So this is great. I love it. I love it. So you camp out there? Yeah. Really? Yeah. Do you pitch a tent? No. So I'm with the natives. So no, you don't go out there I don't go out there by myself. That's a recipe for death. But there's people that live there. And so they will take care of you. There's little places you can stay. And there's different levels of accommodation. I mean, there are actually some cities there too. Not necessarily what we think of as cities, but cities. So now I just hang out with the local people, get a translator, because it's funny. My Spanish is very bad. Mi español es basura caliente. My Spanish is hot garbage. And it's funny because I actually do understand them better than people that normally speak Spanish, because Spanish is their second language too. Most of the tribes there. But no, I just hang out in nature, and it's calming, and it's beautiful. And they just have they have ants that are bigger than your fingers, that if they sting you, they'll put you in a coma for a few days. And they have massive butterflies that are like as big as your face, like this stuff you just never even imagined.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool. Huh. That's cool. I don't know that I'll ever do it, but that's interesting to hear about.
Yeah, it's fun. My husband doesn't go either if it makes you feel better. He's like, yeah, he likes to travel to places like Tokyo. He needs places that, have internet and electricity. Yeah. Whenever I'm like, I'm gonna do what is it? The cave diving and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, so make sure you go with some friends, have at least a couple guys there to make sure you're okay. I'm not going.
You cave dive?
Yeah, that's the one but it was on like waterfall. So yeah, and what's funny is I agreed to it before I understood what it was. And the type that I did was, I always thought there was some type of, as they're explaining it and we're on the top and you're like, okay, it's already harnessed up here. Here's your ropes. And they tie it around you. And I'm like, okay, so where's the safety catch? Like if I let go for too long, what catches me? And they're like, nothing, you die. And I'm like, oh, that's good to know. Because most people don't realize when you're propelling down by doing this. You're literally just you're clamping and letting go. That's how you're falling down. You're kicking back and you're doing this. So I'm like, what happens if I miss the rope? And they're like, don't miss the rope, lady. And I'm like, in Spanish. And I'm like, so yeah, I end up in all kinds of crazy adventures that I don't necessarily understand, but it's too late by the time.
Wow. Very interesting. So I can't believe we've gone way past our time. Oh my gosh.
We were having fun.
All right, one last question.
Okay.
Who sees your blind spots?
Oh, my husband. Oh, and he's good at it, and he does it with such empathy. So it's not this kind of I told you so, like you see in some different relationships where it's so kind. And he'll say, baby, have you considered this? Or what if maybe this? And it's just, he plants these little seeds.
Yeah.
And it's so compassionate, but he sees all of them. And it's such a blessing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to wave you off, but before we do, I'm going to send you to the green room. So you're going to hang out there for a little bit. You can have as many M&Ms as you want. It's all right.
Okay.
Whatever you need. But I would like to come talk to you afterwards if you have a few minutes.
Of course.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for being on today.
Thank you.
All right. There we go. That was Crystal Washington. Oh my gosh. I've never even thought of some of the stuff she was talking about. I'm like, wow. Oh, absolutely incredible. What a great show. Tomorrow we've got a great lineup coming up with Josh Evans from the Illinois Association of Rehabilitation Facilities. He's going to talk to us about his vision and what is important for us all to understand from that alignment perspective. After that, at 11:30, we have Abby Courier, who's going to be on, and she's going to be talking about her cerebral palsy, and that's on the Radical Vision for Disabilities show. So that is going to be great. Now, and then next week, we've got a huge lineup. I mean, oh my gosh. We've got Steve Farber joining us. I mean, he's the author of A Radical Leap, which is a great book. But then he's also the author of a new book. It's called Love Just Damn Good Business. So I'm really looking forward to having him on Monday. And then Tuesday, we have Sean Rhodes coming on to talk a little bit more about sales. Wow. Well, thank you all for being here today. This has just been phenomenal. I think I need to go take a nap right now. So thank you very much. I appreciate you all. As always, take care and keep one eye on